Boom, we are live, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome to the Nolan Hawk Anthony YouTube channel. And I thank all of you for being here wherever you may be. And of course, however you may be listening. Well, the news dropped tonight. It was not a surprise. This is an emergency broadcast, if you will. I wasn't planning on doing the video. I've told you guys in the past. A lot of times, I've been doing this for a couple of years now. Some of these videos just happen sporadically, just a flash of inspiration and motivation, because you do have to find the motivation at times to do these videos. And so I've always been somebody who I do plan video topics out, but a lot of my videos are as the year goes, because I want to leave myself open to videos such as this that you really can't plan for. That's the only way to continue to do this and have it continue to be a fun hobby, if you will. So Beau Pribula has chosen the Missouri Tigers. And what really sparked me wanting to make this video is instantly seeing comments from the Iowa Hawkeye faithful that Iowa just didn't have the money to land Beau Pribula. Guys, I did a video on this a week ago. I don't know where Iowa fans are getting this. Maybe it's easier for them to cope and lie to themselves by telling themselves this lie that Iowa doesn't have money. But if Iowa didn't have money, how did they land Caleb Brown? Especially when he was only a year removed from being one of the best high school players or one of the best high school players in the entire country. Riddle me that. If Iowa didn't have money, how did they land Eric All, who was one of the best tight end prospects on the board in the transfer portal? If Iowa didn't have money, how did they land Cade McNamara? Obviously, Cade McNamara didn't work out, but it was a pretty hefty fee to land him, as he played for a very notable university in Michigan and did have some success there, especially as a team. How has Iowa landed these other transfer portal prospects? Nick Jackson, Rusty Feth. I mean, these aren't like the biggest names in the world, but I mean, you still have to beat out other people or other teams for them. That, but in the previous video that I did, I detailed Iowa has one of the highest paid coaches in the entire country, top 25, in Kirk Ferentz, okay? And according to revenue-generated reports, Iowa was a top 25 program in revenue generated. Even if we didn't have those numbers available to us, logically speaking, we can look at the fan interaction, the fan engagement in Iowa football, and we could tell that Iowa is able to generate plenty of money. It's just the truth. It's just absolutely ludicrous. Does money play a role in these players' decisions? Sure. But Iowa fans are starting to get a really bad habit of coping by saying that we didn't land such and such player because we didn't have the money. Is that partially true? Sometimes, occasionally? Sure. But is it true every time Iowa doesn't land a high school prospect or a transfer portal prospect? Of course not. That is absurd. It's ridiculous. The Swarm Collective has since its inception, Not that I don't know how much it's going to matter in the future, because, and I need to do more research into this, but I've seen that college football is going to go to a cap situation. So whether the University of Iowa continues to use the Swarm Collective in partnership, we'll see how that all shakes out. But Jim Harbaugh, way back when, was complaining about how Michigan was not organized in their efforts to generate NIL money. Iowa was not one of those schools. Iowa was prepared, and credit to Iowa for being prepared and being on top of the ball. The reason why, and it bothers me so much to see this, people, Iowa fans say this, because this is why we have the problem in the first place. Because some Iowa fans are unwilling to be honest about the situation. They allow their bias and their love and fandom for the University of Iowa from objectively looking at the situation. The more likely situation, and I told you guys this last week, week and a half, that I was not super optimistic about Iowa being able to land a high caliber quarterback. I said that in a Facebook post. And the simple reason is because Iowa has had a terrible line of or lack of success at the quarterback position lately. They've had terrible lack of success at the quarterback position. They've had terrible lack of success at within the offense as a whole. The only two positions, maybe three, that if you're an offensive player that you would somewhat consider going to Iowa if you're a high caliber recruit with plenty of options, or a transfer portal player, in which, by the way, there's a lot of schools that prefer transfer portal targets because they know that they have the ability to play at the college level. So these recruits have options. Not only that, but Iowa has had a terrible lack of success in the passing game. The only three positions that you would possibly consider Iowa on the offensive side of the ball would be tight end number 1, offensive line number 2, because you can be really good on the offensive line and the offense still suck as far as statistical output goes. And you could still get drafted high. Case in point, Tyler Linderbaum. I'm sure there's other examples, maybe even Tristan Wirfs. And maybe the running back position, because Iowa, no matter what, under Kirk Ferentz, is going to be a team that runs the football. It's just ridiculous, guys. It was always going to be hard. I need to take a step back so I don't completely unload here, but it was always going to be difficult for Iowa to land a quarterback with multiple other Power 4 level suitors, okay? Let me put it even more plainly for you. It was always going to be difficult for Iowa to land a quarterback that could immediately come in and either win the starting quarterback position or immediately be in contention for the starting quarterback position. That's why I said that the fact that Iowa was able to land Brendan Sullivan, honestly, is a miracle. Can you imagine where Iowa's quarterback room would be if they didn't land, if Tim Lester didn't land Jackson Stratton and Brendan Sullivan? It was a miracle, honestly, that they were able to land him. I know that he didn't have a ton of success, but somehow, some way, kind of under the radar, they were able to find a quarterback with Big Ten level starting experience to come to their school in Brendan Sullivan. It was always going to be difficult until Iowa shows that they can generate statistical output in the passing game, it's going to be difficult to land decent quarterbacks in the transfer portal, and hell, even in the high school ranks. On top of that, the wide receiver position. And I've said this time and time again. Iowa has recruited the wide receiver position probably better than the quarterback position if you look at the recruiting rankings, and it's a sheer miracle that they've been able to. And the only reason why they've been able to is because they do have the money. They have more money than most schools do. Right now, in the 2025 class, Iowa has a high 3-star, 4-star by On3 Terrence Smith out of the state of Illinois. There's been countless other examples of Iowa being able to land high 3-star, borderline 4-star wide receiver prospects in the last 5 to 6 years. And they've only been able to do it because they have a proven track record of getting guys to the NFL, a proven track record of wins, especially in the last 5 to 7 years. And they have a steady coach regime that players feel confident that they will be there from the time they get there to the time they end. And then, of course, NIL for Iowa is good as well. When these players make a decision, it's not a one-size-fits-all, okay? Yes, some players primarily make decisions based off of financials, and yes, was one of those players probably Caden Proctor? Sure. But now that we're a few years removed, can you really blame Caden Proctor for not going to Iowa, given the lackluster offensive output that the offense was having? Would it be fun to play for an offensive scheme like that? I mean, these players want to feel excited about the scheme that they're in. They want to enjoy playing football. Yes, they want to get to the next level. Yes, they want to have college success. Yes, they want to be developed. Yes, all these things are true, but they want to have fun. They want to continue to enjoy playing the sport that they love. And as an Iowa fan, can you honestly say that when it comes to passing the football, that there's been a lot of passion or love or fun for the Iowa players? Hell, I mean, minus this past season, the offense as a whole has not been very fun for the players. And so I've been saying that until Tim Lester can put together at the very least an average passing offense when it comes to the stats and the numbers, bare minimum average, Iowa will not, never say never, but they will struggle. They will always be climbing a mountain. They will always be hurdling barriers to land these quarterbacks with other suitors from the Power 4 level. Hell, I mean, even last year, there was a wide receiver, Raylan Sharp, who chose Fresno State over Iowa, okay? And Iowa was even able to get him on campus. Just to give you guys a perspective of how bad Iowa's offense has been in the last couple of years, pretty much every guy that they have landed in the transfer portal has gotten on the field at one point or another almost immediately. Now, not every single one is worked out, but you have Rusty Feth on the offensive line inserted into the lineup. Now, he would probably start for most teams as well. Caleb Brown was a starting wide receiver for a while. Jacob Gill was buried in the Northwestern depth chart. Now, maybe that speaks more to Northwestern than it does to Iowa, but he gets to Iowa and he becomes a starting wide receiver. And credit to him, I'm happy to have him. Eric All leaves Michigan where, he's in the roster, he gets injured, he's struggling to get back, and then he's a starting tight end when he gets to Iowa. And that's one of the best position groups that Iowa has. Again, now Eric All would probably start for a lot of teams, but still, the Iowa offense It's not that they can't recruit. It's that they can't develop. And it's the most important position that they can't develop or do not have a proven track record of doing so is at the quarterback position, specifically from the high school ranks. The last quarterback that Iowa has landed out of high school that has started a meaningful amount of games has been Spencer Petras, and his stats were atrocious. So until Tim Lester can put together an average passing attack, it will continuously be difficult for him to land quarterbacks. That's why I said the fact that Iowa was able to land a guy that's going into his sophomore year that came from Auburn, I mean, we should be thanking God that's the case. I mean, Iowa's lucky to even land him. And this is kind of the root of the problem. Yes, I'm okay with Tim Lester and Iowa continuously going to the transfer portal within reason. But at the end of the day, Tim Lester, what is going to breed success is having success developing a high school quarterback or a young quarterback on the roster that he can bring along, develop, have some tutelage, and have them have some success. Man, don't you guys miss Ken O'Keefe? I mean, at least Ken O'Keefe was able to develop quarterbacks out of high school. James Vandenberg, Ricky Stanzi, Drew Tate, CJ Beathard, Nate Stanley. I mean, at least he was able to do that. So that is what he's going to need to do. He's going to have to develop the young quarterbacks that he has. And quite frankly, Iowa fans, we are lucky to have the quarterbacks that we have going into next year, namely Brendan Sullivan. Am I saying that Brendan Sullivan is the end-all be-all? Of course not. And, you know, time will tell how much he can develop and how much Tim Lester can elevate his game as a quarterback. But it could be a lot worse. And overall, what I'm saying is you guys need to stop with the excuse, with the cope, that Iowa is not landing these quarterbacks because they don't have the money. It's ridiculous. It is ridiculous. You don't think that there's some big Iowa spenders out there that have University of Iowa roots that if the Swarm reached out to or they had a legitimate, real shot? Hell, you don't think that they did that with Beau Pribula? Of course they did. They have the money. They have the money. It's there. But these quarterbacks want to play for a coach and a system that they can be successful in and can go to the next level. Right now, Iowa is just too big of a risk. It's too big of a risk. And realistically, a big reason Iowa was able to land Hank Brown and Brendan Sullivan is because of the Illinois connection that Tim Lester has. But to land a kid that isn't even familiar with Tim Lester or what he does, his system, all they know is that Iowa is one of the worst offenses in the entire country over the last 5 years. Yes, this past year we saw improvement, and that's good. Knock on wood. But still, I'm so tired of seeing that excuse. It anytime I see it, it just shoots through me. This frustration that it's so unfounded. It's like a comment that like you just say off the cuff because you've seen 100 other people and you don't critically evaluate whether it's true. And listen, I get it. Not every Iowa fan has the time to think about Iowa sports and or care to think about it. And I understand that. Okay, that's fine. But at the same time, maybe you shouldn't be putting out statements when you haven't really thought about it in depth and you don't have the evidence to back it up. maybe you should just keep that sentiment to yourself unless you can prove it. Because I got to tell you, it's a lot easier to prove my side of what I just said because a lot of these players don't really put out their financials and what these schools are paying. They keep it close to the vest, especially these quarterbacks, because there's still some stigma around college players making money. So, anyways, guys, that's about it. I've unloaded. I've unleashed. We're at 20 minutes. I don't want to keep it much longer. Let me know what you guys think. Yes, it stinks. Just to wrap it up, yes, it sucks. I think that it definitely would have been a nice pickup, and he definitely would have improved Iowa's quarterback room. Do I think that he would have been the immediate starter? Not necessarily. I think he's actually a very similar player to Brendan Sullivan. Maybe with better arm talent. And there are still some quarterbacks that are on the board. And when the season ended, I have continuously said that Iowa needs to look at quarterbacks that are younger in the transfer portal, that do not have a ton of experience, do not have a ton of suitors, that have qualities and intangibles that Tim Lester can work with and develop. Because as a quarterback coach, that's your number one job. Again, not saying that you shouldn't try to get these other quarterbacks, but, we're this far in. I mean, luckily Iowa landed Hank Brown, but, and again, this is kind of the dance that happens in the transfer portal. Do you spend all this time, energy, money, and resources to go get a quarterback that you have maybe like a 20% chance, or a player, not even quarterback, that you have like a 20% chance of landing? Or is that time better served at uncovering some under the radar younger players that you can develop within your system that maybe won't give you as immediate play for your school? That's the dance that kind of happens. And I think the sweet spot for Iowa is kind of a good balance of both. Thus far, just to wrap this video up, Iowa has not made very much noise in the transfer portal. They have not landed a ton of guys. And, it's a lot of it has to do with the fact that Iowa is... It's kind of like basketball. I did a video for Fran McCaffrey, apathy, where... everybody respects Kirk Ferentz. Everybody respects Iowa's success, but there's nothing like sexy about the University of Iowa. There's nothing, that seems like it's new and upcoming and uncharted or anything like that. So, for some players, it is a good thing, the stability that Iowa has. But let's be honest, there's a lot more of these youngsters that want to be a part of something new, fresh, and turn it into something amazing. So we'll see. There's still some players on the board. Before I wrap this up, let me actually go to On3 right now and see. Another name that I've heard is Devontae Ross. And by the way, guys, for what it's worth, not that a lot of you guys are going to get to this point in the video, what I had seen, and I guess I was wrong, is that the leaders for Beau Pribula was UCF, Iowa, and Ole Miss. And Ole Miss was actually favored to land him, according to On3. And none of those three schools got him. So, and I can live with that. I'm okay. I would have been okay with him going to UCF. I'm kind of okay with him going to Missouri too. At least he's picking a school that he'll probably start for. And Iowa happens to be playing Missouri, of course. So one name was off the board. They were after a DB from Miami of Ohio. He chose Auburn. Rayon Shadar. They're still after Traven Randolph from Northern Illinois, Ethan Anawa from Rice, and Jonah Pace from Central Michigan. They're still uncommitted, but Langdon Kitchen did choose Missouri. So Iowa has lost out to Missouri twice in the transfer portal this year. All right, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. And be sure to like, comment, share, subscribe. Let's get this channel to 2,000 subscribers. Thank you guys so much for watching. And last but not least, DBAP, don't be a pussy willow and facts or feelings, because your feelings just don't matter. I love you, Hawk fans. See you guys next time. Bye-bye.